We are Pro Cannabis Media.
Hi everyone, welcome to a special edition of Weed Talk Now. I'm Jimmy Young, the founder of Pro Cannabis Media.
And I'm Kurt Dalton, the founder of Cannabis.net.
Wait, who can understand Kurt when you're talking behind your mask?
And we have a homeless guy. We decided to have a homeless guy from Canada come on tonight, so let's introduce him.
Go ahead, Kurt. He's your buddy. Go ahead.
We have the one and only Bruce Linton. He's in disguise. He's playing a role in a Adam Sandler movie out of Ottawa. But welcome, Bruce. How you doing?
I'm doing well, man. If it's COVID and you try to look sketchy, people stay away.
That's true.
Is that the playoff? Is that the
cough a lot?
Is that the playoff beard? That's what I'd like to know. Is that the playoff beard? Because that's what all the hockey guys do during the playoffs is they grow their beards, right? Right.
It's true. It's sort of the spring theme. But given the fact playoffs are in August, I think they should probably be like shaving everything.
The bald head, for instance. All right, and that's in now anyway. I guess congratulations is in order, Bruce, because over the last few weeks or so, you've been busy raising money for a new company, Collective Growth. Can you tell us a little bit about that adventure and that venture?
Yeah, so it was even a little further back. We officially launched sort of second last week of May, and so what it is it's called a special purpose acquisition company. Some people will call it a blank check company. What your investors are doing is saying, we would like to put money in a bank account, 150 million US dollars. You're going to, as soon as we do that, you're going to be freely trading stock on NASDAQ in this case. And please report back to us sometime before the next 18 months are up with how you plan to use the money. And if we like the plan and the units are trading above the price we pay them at, we're in favor and you go do it. We don't like the plan or if things are trading bad, well, you just wasted your time and money, because you have to, in order to do that, put up a good chunk, $3 or $4 million with a group of people to launch it. And it was, the most interesting part was we did 2.5 days of presentations that would have been in 6 cities in 2 countries. And we had 250 million offered. And I didn't see anyone. And thankfully, no one saw me.
That's true.
When we last talked in April, you talked about doing business through Zoom and doing business not in offices anymore. And you even said that you were doing some pitches and you found them to be very effective. And obviously, you did it, right? I mean, it's pretty impressive what you were able to pull off.
During COVID, I was directly involved with 3 financings, sort of tech, psychedelics, SPAC, and tech, and actually and a marijuana one as well. And I think what I've taken out of it is anybody running a company right now should say, we've currently for the last 100 days had essentially a budget of about 0 for travel and living for all the people going around and staying in airplanes. So with a travel and living budget of 0, how bad has business been? And for a lot of companies, it hasn't been bad. And so I hope when they return, as both a shareholder and somebody actually likes the fact that skies can be very blue when you don't pollute the hell out of the place, that every company would say, how could we run our company going forward with 25% of what used to be our travel and living budget? And it's not just about more money. You know what? Your employees are a lot less tired.
That's right.
So people will focus their activities on the right things at the right time. And so I'm going to be kind of an advocate that it's almost like a challenge to the companies, because if all you do is go right back to the previous way and a competitor says we can do it more time efficient, wear less people out, and do it for 25% of what you spend, ultimately your competitor is going to win.
Bruce, I got to ask you, being a startup guy, and more of a personal question. You rode the rocket ship up, the 5 billion, the way down. You know, it can be rough on you too. The double firing, if you will, Canopy and Vereo, and people taking their shots. On a human side, like, what'd you learn? I mean, obviously it was more enjoyable the way up, but what were the things you learned kind of coming down and people kind of taking their shots at you, and what was it like?
Well, it's a couple of things. One is, I spent the 1 year. So what I did is that within an hour of being fired from Canopy, because, I just want to do what I want to do, I knew what I was going to do the next day in a sense. I knew that I was going to make myself visible because what I wanted to have is a very active year. And the reason I wanted that is I wanted a sampling platter of everything. And if you do a sampling platter, sometimes you get to ones and you go, ugh, what was that? And I had one of those. They probably felt that's what they were doing to me. Maybe I was doing that to them. But the net of it is you get a better perspective. So this year, it's about now 1 year and a couple of weeks. This year is about creating a ton of value in 3 or 4. And you know what? You just focus on what you focus on. I like to use participating in the media. Like, Kurt, did you ever see me on anything where I wasn't wearing a brand? Because if you're going on, you should have a brand, you should be talking about it. So, this is just one of those ones where you guys reached out. I said, man, I got to do it with Kurt. Like, it's, Jimmy gives me a free fish shirt and you give me a headache every time I talk to you, but it's all good.
What are you talking about, buddy? I got the shirts. Come
There's
on,
the fish shirt. There it is. That's right.
I think what I learned is if you want to keep a job, I know the secret. Show up and shut up. That is a good way to keep a job. But when people call me and chase me and say, can you come and help our company? You know why they need me? Because things aren't good. And they need to get better. And so sometimes if you come into a circumstance, what I do is I try to think about 3 Ps. First, I look at, do they have the right plan? And if things are going shitty, the chance that you have the right plan is relatively low. So we have to reassess the plan, and that can get a little prickly for people because a lot of times the people who made the plan that's not working are still the people working there. Second thing I look at is the people. Almost always you have too many, and almost always you have some of the wrong ones in the wrong spots. So it means some people lose their job and some people change jobs. And that can get touchy because you don't know who's who. And then the third thing, which is where I drive most people completely mad, is pace. And what pace is that if you need to make more and better decisions than anybody in your sector, or you're not going to beat them. And so that comes down to things like IT systems. Where are we getting our information? It comes down to customer interaction. How do we know what they don't like? It comes down to things like, what are we actually building a model to achieve on what time horizon? Because if you try to do things really good for the afternoon with the work you do in the morning, your pace is going to be very busy and very short term. And so when I go in, you focus on the plan, you get aimed at the people, and then you get on a drum and you just beat it on pace. And pace is the hardest thing because it's sort of like, for some people, it's what their heart rate is what their heart rate is. And what I know is that if you aren't hammering harder and pushing harder, and if you can't deal with that, then the pace thing will always cause people a headache. And I've concluded that I kind of feel bad that I drive people nuts, but I probably will have a segment that do not like my theory on people, the plan, the people, and the pace. And so that will be a self-selecting thing, I think, for the rest of my life of who wants to work with that.
So that leads right in with the money you just raised and the 3 or 4 projects that are ready to go in it. What appealed, or what's in those? What do those projects tell us, and what appealed to you in that same pace and that description?
Yeah. So in a SPAC, that thing where the $150 million came in, a penalty the money puts on you is they said, we're only going to let you have it for 18 months instead of 24 months. And you know how that hits me in the mind. If I still have your money in 18 months and have done nothing, I don't know what went wrong, but it was like 1,000 things. And so that model where you have currency that's a listed stock and you have cash, and then what you're doing is making deals to assemble all these pieces that on the basis of their assembly are worth more than they were independently. That's not going to work, man. That's like going to play every day. I'm really active in Europe with a fund we've set up called Oskare, O-S-K-A-R-E. And we launched in, end of June, beginning of this month. And what it's doing is it's raising money to take this European federally permissible platform with phenomenal pharmaceutical history and regulations that allow, you can see when Germany, maybe Greece are going to go wreck, but you have this great medical platform and you can do research. And so we're trying to fund the sort of 3rd, 4th waves of products and things out of Europe. And then, you get things like Gage Cannabis. I was on with those guys today, and they're in Michigan. and you can't believe the rate at which they're growing. So what you want to do is make sure you're helping them always figure out what the best sources of capital are. Make sure that we don't get in a situation where our balance sheet's kind of messed up because you got everything tied up in lease lendbacks and things. So those kind of things really get you going. This hat is Ruckify, and it's software, but it's software like, if you have more time to stop, which I've had, you know, on and off, you start thinking about the reason we started Ruckify is that it annoyed me that I didn't own certain things that I needed to use and I wanted access to them. So it really thought it was a software application so I could figure out kind of what's in my neighbor's garage effectively and give them a little bit of rent for it, insure it so that if I wreck it, they get a new one. It's not my problem. But when I thought about it, and we worked on it a lot, almost everything all of us own that's in our garage, basement, and a lot of stuff in your kitchen, you use for about an hour a year. That aluminum ladder is a perfect example.
Yes.
You got
under
one?
my deck. Yeah, it's under my deck.
You bought that. You were super proud the day you bought it, and you bought a good one. Everybody buys a good one. And then use it to, like, I don't know, take some leaves out of the eaves trough in the spring or fall or something. Why we would ever make another one is insane, because to make that ladder, they had to dig some honking holes, take the ferrous materials out, smelt them down, roll the aluminum, ship it somewhere, da-da-da-da-da. The next thing you know, what they've really made is a big environmental drain. And instead, what they should have is you should have yours on Ruckify, and everybody who needs it pays you $10. It gets picked up by an Uber-like equivalent, depending on the length of your ladder. And the guy doesn't have to store it, he just uses it. And think that through. You say you could do that for tents. You could do that for mix masters. We have over 500,000 items in there, and we're just starting. And what I like about it is, I think when you exit COVID, you enter a recession. Even in COVID, we're in a recession. And so anybody who's got a ladder under the deck should think about, how do I make an extra few $100 a year off this ladder? And anybody who doesn't want to spend the $200 to buy it should say, how can I use $15 to rent it? And so the matching of interest happens and the environmental happens. And I kind of belabor that one, because one of the things I thought about is I only want to work on things that I think will make a meaningful, disruptive, positive impact.
And you found one. You certainly found one. I want to ask you, do I have to white?
I co-founded it because I was pissed off I couldn't get a chainsaw big enough to finish the cutting job I was doing.
I got a chainsaw under the deck. Well, not under the deck. In the garage. I could have let you borrow it. Right?
You know, what I hear right now is you are basically Mr. Money Pots. You're letting money just sit idle when you should be actually Ruckifying it. Like, turn your coat upside, man. There's going to be like $1,000 fall out of your pockets.
No, absolutely not. Not my pockets. Absolutely not. When you share this now, you mentioned COVID and this whole new world that we're in. I'm guessing that you have to wipe down the product that you're going to rent as well, because everybody's worried about surfaces, right?
For sure, but here's what we thought. Well, as soon as COVID was announced, we thought, boy, we're pretty screwed. But after about a week of that thought, even less, we went, so if you can't go to the gym, can the gym come to you? Right. Oh, Turns out people wanted gym stuff. So from Austin to Ottawa, we helped them empty out gyms where you would say, I want a treadmill. You'd say you want it for 3 weeks. Turns out you want it for 2 months. The gym didn't have insurance for this stuff when it left the gym. We did. The gym didn't have a charging platform in terms of commerce. We did, for this kind of weekly, daily, hourly. And the gym didn't have transport systems available. We do. And so all of a sudden, all you have to do is, usually if it's not working, just turn it upside down and see what's going on. And so, like, instead of Ruckifying that way, we Ruckified, like, you can't go to the gym. Didn't say the gym can't come to you.
That's funny you say that, because a really sharp guy sent you some information on a mirror system where you could work out at home, and they got bought by Peloton a month or two later for $500 million. That's
unbelievable.
Happening.
Well, and you know what? That mirror system, so I actually checked that thing out. You know where it was fascinating to me is it was getting picked up by, say, like the Heart and Stroke Foundation. So if you had a stroke, you have to do a zillion repetitive exercises to rebuild the functionality. And it turns out that mirror application was the best physio sort of rehab tool for all kinds of cohorts. So I was starting to do my digging, and next thing though, they ate it.
And then Peloton beat you to it.
But I think it extends Peloton into a whole therapeutic renewal space that they were never going to be able to touch with their prior hardware and software.
Yeah.
I tried to actually order that. I went online, I tried to order that mirror product, and I couldn't get through to their website because it was too busy or something. I don't know. I gave up after a while, though. I did check it out, though. I like the idea. I do.
You know what I discovered during COVID? A lot of things. One of them is that there are workouts on YouTube, right, and they're free. And there's one.
Right. You could have found that out before COVID. I'm just saying.
And there's one
well, you had a lot of time
by this
lady
named Inger Houghton, and she's got about 2 million views. I think I'm somewhere in the neighborhood of 200 of them because we, on a daily basis, do it. And they're phenomenal ways to work out. Actually, I learned that if you said, what is Tabata songs a person or a style of music? I would have said, well, that's a person. Turns out Tabata songs is not a person. It's a style of music which is terrific to work out by, and it's free. And I think all that I discovered is that I'm an idiot to have paid a gym membership for the last 25 years. Kurt, bad news. Your shirt might not be worn in public as much as I used to wear it.
I was going to say, do you know what tread Tabata is? That's basically the workout you're doing on a treadmill. So, yep, I know these things.
It's amazing, though.
Yep.
I love it.
How do you feel about hemp now? What's your view of hemp? Because that's why the whole fund was kind of put together. You loved hemp. Do you still love hemp?
Yes, but to be clear, I love hemp, the industrial side of hemp.
Yep.
And so most of the bad reputation of hemp was because it looked like marijuana and got banned for 80 years because theoretically it was marijuana. I think it was because it was actually competitive to nylon and to pulp and paper and things like that. And then when it came back in 2018, the problem was there was no infrastructure to transform industrial hemp into anything useful, and everybody's so excited about CBD. So if they grew 1 million acres, like 999,000 were of short, no industrial hemp value in terms of the fiber and just a bunch of CBD. But like when we did our analysis, there's a couple hundred categories of current industrial supply products that can be more sustainably, more price effectively produced when you grow hemp of the right kind and put it through the right processes. And so what I'm mainly excited isn't ever having a tractor in hemp, and I don't really want to make the bumper for the car. What we want to do is take high value applications and take the whole plant, because think about it, a hemp plant is about the size of your thumb and it's 21 feet tall and it doesn't fall over. So up the side of it are all these cables, these really strong fibers. And so think of that stuff, and if you do the right things with it, you can actually make them conductive of electricity like copper. They weigh less, stronger than steel. So there's all kinds of applications, and what we're trying to do is think through all of them so you monetize every piece of that plant, and you end up with a situation where you shorten the supply chain. Because what people in every country are going to want after COVID for a long time, at least the lifetime of the people who've experienced, is how do I not depend on other countries for things I find I have to have? And if hemp can be a big part of that list, it means you shorten the supply chain. You're not getting stuff from all over the world. You're growing it and processing it in America. And I think it's going to impact everything from like auto industry to where you get your next pair of jeans and what the mix of cotton and hemp is.
Do you have hemp in the fund yet? Are you looking at companies?
Yeah. So probably our biggest blessing and biggest challenge is that most of the fact that it was illegal in America meant that it was happening elsewhere. And where it was happening, it wasn't illegal, but because it wasn't the major market, you have a lot of successfully operating small to medium-sized companies. And so typically, if you're going to do what they call the SPAC, the thing I described earlier, what you do is you go buy one huge company and you put it in there. And instead, what we're going to have to do is a little bit more dicey. We're going to stitch together 4, 5, 6 of them. And then we're going to make it so that together they're way better than they were independently. And what you'll have is this thing that could grow like crazy. And, my goal is, I told people in 2014, company Canopy Tweet, I started in 2013. One guy came and saw me and he said, 2014, you gave me the pitch and you said, I asked you, what do you think the company looks like in 3 years? And I said, well, I don't know if it's worth 1 billion or 2, but it's for sure a unicorn type company. And the reason is, a lot of people like marijuana, very few licenses are going to be issued, and we're the first country on the planet to rationally govern it. If that's not $1 billion enterprise, it means we dropped the ball on the way to the actual prize. And I think the same thing is going to happen with hemp. And I think its applications are actually more broad and more disruptive than cannabis.
Absolutely. Can I ask you a question, Bruce, about valuations of companies? I know that you have been down this road many, many times. When we talked to Terry Buell yesterday from the Cannabis Law Report, of course, we were referring to High Times and everything that they're going through. But how do you come up with a valuation that makes sense when you go in front of people who you're pitching for investment dough?
Yeah. It's a hard question because everything's only worth what people will pay for it. And what they want to pay for things at different times can change dramatically. And so I would say that answer for any corporation in any change sector changes every 6 months. It can go up and down. And so you need to be able to read the room to know which direction things are going. And you need to be hopeful that you didn't start too high and you were beginning your pricing at a peak and you got nothing but pain. And so what I would sooner do is I would sooner do 5 financings and be what people call dilution. Let me explain my view on dilution. If you give me $1, I expect to turn it into 10. That's called value creation. I own less of the company, but because of your dollar, it's worth a hell of a lot more. Now, if I was afraid of dilution, what I'm really afraid of is that if you give me $1, I turn it into 50 cents. Now the thing's worth less. I did not do value creation. So it is my view that those people who are fundamentally terrified of dilution are actually fundamentally terrified of their own business plan and their own competence. And so I think people who start and try and get a very high valuation, grab the money once at a huge level, don't have confidence in their own business plan. And so I am very, very concerned when I see that. I would sooner see somebody who says, you know, give me $1, I'll make it to 10, I'll come back and see you, and you'll give me $2 more because you love me. I know it doesn't answer the question, but to me, you are way better. It's kind of like when we released gel caps and oils. You're way better to, well, that was dose low and go slow, but this is much better to actually start low and always go up. And so I hate these big things. The other part is I would look at if their last round had nothing but retail, and if their average, if you asked 95% of the owners of a stock what the price is or what the value is, if you said, what's the value? If what they tell you is the price per share and they have no idea what the shares outstanding are, all you've done is tricked a bunch of retail because they can't even answer the question on what's the market cap. Like, who cares what the price is per share? If you do enough splits or enough consolidation, you can manipulate it to any price you want per share. It's the market cap that matters. And I get a lot of people who even pitch me who are the owners and operators of a company. They'll say, you got to get now. It's a 40-cent round. Well, what the hell does that mean? Like, I could have had a company that had a 40-cent round. I would have just had to do like a 1,000-to-1 split. But who wants a 40-cent round? I want to know what's the market cap. So I think valuations are sometimes opportunistic, and those that do that are often punished. And we're seeing that in the sector now, right? Wow. How many down round, heavy warrant coverage, rewriting of the terms of convertibles, like convertible killer notes are still everywhere. One company came to me and said, can you help us find somebody to buy us? The only criteria is the home cannot have a big convertible overhang. They just can't, you don't know what's going to happen underneath that.
Gotcha.
Wow. What do you like in?
All right, I got to follow.
In Michigan, what
I got to follow up, Kurt.
The
when you want.
Marijuana scene, and you're in Michigan. What anything you like? Anything you're looking at, or what do you think of the sector in general?
So Michigan, I'm involved with Gage. I would say demand is twice as much as we thought, and the rules are well administered. If you can get the licenses to be vertically stacked and actually control your own destiny, massively beneficial. It's essentially Florida spelt a little differently. And it's really well run. And I would say the operator I'm involved with, you know, you can see directly from every place you're growing to everywhere you're selling, the timeline where you can actually recognize revenue. And that kind of business, you know what the single biggest problem of being Gage in Michigan? Working capital, because you're growing so quickly. Because when you're going to open up a store, you got to build a store. Then you got to fill the store with product. And that means you had to build a building to build the product, grow the product, and you got to have a time to clear it. And so when you're growing at like doubling every 3 or 4 months, that's a lot of happening. But it seems that, you know, more and more of the areas that were medical only are saying, yeah, you know what, we're changed our mind. We're going to let it become rec as well. So directionally, it's just great. It wasn't left, you know, you guys are mass, or at least you're a mass. It wasn't screwed by the choice that you're not essential. You know, it was essential. So I just, you know, anything with good regulatory structure matters. And that's why, how many times have you guys been, think back 3, 4, 5 years ago, everybody said, you got to be in California. You got to be in California. I don't know, man. That's a good story for a couple, but it's a tough piece of work compared to being early and focused in a state like Michigan.
And in Massachusetts, just to correct it again, the governor here deemed medical cannabis essential, but stopped adult use rec. And they were the only state in the country to do that, I might add.
He also closed all the liquor stores and stuff.
Yeah. Sure he did. Yeah, no, because he had to go to them. He needed those open, you know, and that's a completely different story for another day. But I want to go back to companies and specifically media companies. There have been a lot of media companies in the United States that were properly capitalized that have gone south within 1 to 2 years of their operation. What did they do wrong, or is it too early to actually create a media company because the market hasn't even evolved yet?
Yeah, well, I think some of them took hot money, right? Like, oh, this is a great story, a great brand, a great space. We're going to put this much money in. And then the next thing you know, because it's not going as the money thought it was going to do, what they do is they kill you, Jamie, or they kill you, Kurt, and they put somebody else and they hire. You know what? That doesn't work because you guys don't actually know exactly how your business is going to look in December. But what you're going to do is work at it and think about it constantly. Yes. And so I would say outside funding and the pressures that result from that in your sector, and a lot of times I would say your sector got overfunded, just like for a while vape pens did. Why? Because you were not plant touching, but you were near the story. So it was a great safe way for people. But like I'd say 4 years ago, I think the allocation of capital to vape pen development was probably 50x what it should have been. And in the media space, we had more media coverage, more media entities springing up around cannabis than tech still had. Like if you think about it, you guys on 2 hands couldn't count all of the players that were on the field over the last 4 years in your space.
Right.
So that's a lot of, and so I know a number of them that have died, and I can't think of any of them that died because of an absence of capital. They often almost died because they burned through it, and it was outside capital.
Right.
Like tonight's your big night, right, Jimmy? You actually have someone working with you.
Yes, and it's a deal, I might add, right now, just because they haven't asked to be paid yet, you know, because they're so excited to be part of something new.
Right, but I would say that we should reconvene about every 3 months, and I suspect the field of participants you're dealing with will continue to decrease because a lot of the media guys are attached to events companies.
Right.
Oh, your primary money comes from having an event, and the reason you can fund your media outreach in between events is it's kind of feeder system. What happens in that equation when you take down the events?
And that's exactly what they're faced with right now. MJ Biz is the perfect example. You know, the largest convention. They're trying to do it online, and it's just not the same experience at all.
Yeah, well, I look for I liked it when it was at the Rio, so you had a reason to go to the Rio, and actually a reason to stand in line with a whole bunch of other people. You know, how am I going to actually get that annual experience?
And in fact, Kurt, one of our friends, and Bruce, I think you know Doug Gordon too, I guess CanX now has been canceled for September. Another one bites the dust as, what's that song? You guys are much more hip than I am. I bet you even know who.
Yeah, but there's Doug. Doug is probably the most networked guy for this topic through the Caribbean region. He had done a great job of bringing people in from South America as well. It was a good destination show in Jamaica. I was there the last 2 years. You were there at least one of them for sure, Kurt, and I think two.
Two or three, just two.
Kurt went to two, and he dragged me to last year in September, and it was a great show. I admit it. I feel bad for Doug.
Yeah, but that was a quality show. You think about the number of attendants, the number of geographies. So it is, it's that combo thing I think is going to kill them, because I think a lot of the media companies weren't actually media companies. They were actually extensions of events used to keep the event relevant between occurrences of the event.
Yeah.
Interesting. And I think they're discovering now that the webinars that a lot of them are putting online are not attracting the eyeballs that, of course, you need to be a successful media company. It is a basic 101 media there. You have to have audience.
It's the gyms that we took all the stuff out of the gym are making way more money than the gyms that are running online seminars. So you learn how to unroll your yoga mat or something, and they think you're going to actually pay to watch like the gym online. Zero. So like you have to change what your business model is. You can't just sort of try to do a gentle migration for some of these things. It just doesn't work.
Adapt and improvise.
Yeah. As far as a guy who developed products, I'm curious your opinion on this debate, because I riled up some millennials. I say, and all the studies say, branding in the cannabis space is irrelevant based on consumer response. Yet millennials who run websites and do marketing will swear they have to, every cannabis product has to look like it comes from the Apple store or a Nike store.
Yeah.
How important is cannabis branding when you were building out the Canopy brands and the products? And what do you think of it now as far as the color, the logo, the sleekness? Are you say absolutely important, a little important, or it turns out to be irrelevant as studies show?
So my pitch was, and would still be, unless you have unlimited spend, branding is nothing more than a marketing war unless you do one thing fundamentally different. Whatever product is in there should be able to be identified by the consumer without a label across an array of similar selections presented by your competitors. So if you do not have something fundamentally superior and better, then all you are is in a marketing war over the jersey. And so first, and we applied this particularly in the place of beverages. We said that like it must be amazing, and then it must have an identifiable shape of a can. So like the 2 milligram Tweed and Tonic is in a tall, slender can. You know how many calories it has? 0. Now, a tall, slender can full of clear beverage, does that make you think? Bet that doesn't have calories. Bet that makes me feel tall and slender. So I think branding, product, packaging have to actually convey the purpose. So the ones we made for Seth are phenomenal. They're this grapefruit kind of really more carbonated than the Tweed and Tonic. And it's in kind of a fun, crazy pink can. If you've ever actually hung around Seth and heard him laugh, that can doesn't laugh and be nearly as crazy as him. So but it makes a ton of sense because it's a refreshing, so I think, I don't know that you can, it's almost, the argument to me is missing the point. You guys agree. What you want is a great and differentiated product that you can identify without cool packaging. And then you want the packaging to represent the intent of the brand and the quality and type of product inside.
Thanks for clearing that up.
Yeah. But you know what? You will come to Canada. You know what you're going to look at? I guarantee you the can you're going to look at, if you saw the 3 primary beverages that are selling, there's the tall, slender one, there's the pink one, and there's one in a black can, and it's a little stocky, and it kind of looks like you will grab that one. You say, that's more what I like, and it's the much stronger one, and it's called Deep Space. And it's a 10 milligram beverage with high intake, but it's intended, like if the guy looks like Kurt, he's going to go for that one. Like he's going to, and it's the top selling SKU because it has a higher amount in it. Guys walk in, they see the can, they hear the story, they buy the product, they come back and they buy.
And I'm comfortable buying the pink one. I just am. I just want to say that because I'm comfortable with that. By the way, speaking of cans, I did see a story today that aluminum, or as they say in Europe, aluminium, there's a they're looking for it. There's not a lot of it out there right now because everybody's at home drinking their aluminum cans in their beers and their sodas. Now, what are you saying?
No, it's because you have stupid aluminum ladders under your deck.
I was just going to say that. I go, they all made the ladders out of them. What do you mean?
Oh, gosh. You are one of them. Where's Kurt going? Where's Kurt going? He just left the show.
He's going to get his ladder. He's going to get his ladder.
I don't know what you're talking about.
There you go. There you go. Doesn't work. Doesn't work in a virtual world. He's learning about green screen, right? It doesn't work.
I thought you were going out to get your ladder.
Well, now I'm thinking about, I gotta go see what's under my porch. Wheelbarrows.
Hey, fantastic. Hey, Bruce Linton, as always, extremely entertaining, informative, and educational talking to you. You are, what's it?
And hopeless.
And homeless. I think he's doing all right. He's in the same room he was in a couple months ago. That's a good sign, right?
True.
And
house arrest continues.
That's right. We wish you best of luck with your future venture. Anything we can do to help you out, tell that story. That's what we like to do on this particular internet site. And I know you're tight with Kurt. I guess you could keep that going if you'd like.
Remember what I bought?
That's right. Oh, and now I have your cell phone too, so I'm going to send you text. So you're really in trouble now.
I love it. Well, you guys keep up the good work. I love it. Keep it going and be healthy and well, and let's prosper.
You bet. Thank you very much, Bruce Linton from Canada up there. And we will say goodnight for this version of Weed Talk Now. So for Kurt Dalton and Bruce Linton, I'm Jimmy Young. We'll catch you next time. Remember, it's a whole new world of weed out there. Use it responsibly. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Weed Talk Now, Weed Talk News, and In the Weeds are all available on most major podcast distributors like iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and our friends at clnsmedia.com and our flagship, Cannabis.net. So subscribe, share, and like our videos on all the social media networks out there, including LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, the WeedTube, and YouTube. Weed Talk and In the Weeds are two productions of Pro Cannabis Media supported by Revolutionary Clinics, one of the top medical cannabis dispensaries in the Massachusetts area, now with 3 locations in Greater Boston, 2 in Cambridge and 1 on Broadway in Somerville. Rev Clinics has a patient-first mission. They will customize your needs as a medical patient with the proper titration and combination of strains, flavors, and products. Rev Clinics, where the patient comes first.
We are Pro Cannabis Media.